The Stellar Academy of Advanced Sciences orbited the twin suns of Proxima Tertius, a monument to galactic cooperation. For 3 centuries, it had trained the brightest minds from 73 different species. Richard, a Valkyrian with crystalline skin that refracted light in mesmerizing patterns, had studied there for 2 cycles. He thought he'd seen everything. Then Jessica arrived. She walked into the quantum mechanics lecture hall on a standard Tuesday morning, and the whispers began immediately. Richard watched from his elevated seat as Professor Thexnor, a being of pure energy contained in a magnetic field, paused mid-equation. "Class, we have a new student." The professor's voice resonated through their neural implants. "This is Jessica. She comes from Earth." The lecture hall fell silent. Earth, the death world. The planet so hostile that its dominant species had evolved to withstand crushing gravity, fight off millions of hostile microorganisms daily, and heal from injuries that would kill most sentient beings. Richard had read about humans in his xenobiology texts, but he'd never expected to meet one. Jessica smiled, a gesture that seemed friendly enough, and took a seat in the front row. She carried no anti-gravity compensator, no atmosphere regulator, no neural enhancement implant. Just a simple datapad and what appeared to be a primitive writing instrument. "Now, as I was saying," Professor Thexnor continued, "the probability wave function collapses when—" "Excuse me, Professor." Jessica's hand shot up. "Wouldn't the observer effect be negligible at macro scales? The decoherence time would be far too short for practical observation." Richard's translator struggled with her rapid speech pattern. Most species spoke slowly, deliberately, giving their words time to form properly. Jessica spoke as if she were racing against time itself. Professor Thexnor's energy field flickered with what Richard had learned to recognize as surprise. "That's correct. Have you studied quantum mechanics before?" "Just the basics." Jessica shrugged. "Physics was my favorite subject back home." Over the following weeks, Richard found himself increasingly fascinated by the human. She excelled in every class, but it wasn't just her intelligence that set her apart. It was everything else. In combat training, she moved with a speed and grace that made the Zypherian warriors look clumsy. When a safety field failed and a practice drone went rogue, Jessica didn't freeze like the others. She grabbed a loose metal rod and destroyed the drone in 3 precise strikes, moving faster than Richard's eyes could track. "Sorry," she'd said afterward, breathing only slightly harder than normal. Instinct. In survival training, the class was dropped on a class for hostile moon. Most species required full environmental suits. Jessica wore a light jacket. When Richard's suit breached and he began suffocating in the thin atmosphere, Jessica had carried him 2 kilometers back to base. She'd carried him, all 80 kilos of crystalline mass, while running at a pace that would have exhausted most species in their prime athletic form. "You're not normal," Richard told her later in the medical bay, his voice a mixture of awe and fear. Jessica laughed, a sharp, barking sound that her species apparently made when amused. "Richard, where I come from, I'm completely average. Actually, I was pretty mediocre at track and field." "But how?" He gestured at her. "You don't use technology. No enhancements, no genetic modifications. You're just biological. Humans are persistence hunters," Jessica explained, leaning back in her chair. "We evolved to run prey to exhaustion. We can't sprint like cheetahs or fly like eagles, but we can keep going, and going, and going. Our planet tried to kill us for millions of years, so we adapted." The real shock came during the Interstellar Academic Games. Each academy sent teams to compete in physical and mental challenges. Richard was chosen for the Strategic Planning Division. Jessica volunteered for the Endurance Trial. The Endurance Trial was considered one of the cruelest events. Competitors had to navigate a 100-kilometer course across varied terrain while solving complex mathematical problems at checkpoints. Most species trained for years and used every technological advantage available. The record stood at 47 hours, held by a Dravaxian team that had used combat stimulants and neural overclocking. Jessica completed it in 18 hours. Alone, without any enhancements. She crossed the finish line, solved the final equation while standing, then asked if there was a cafeteria nearby because she'd worked up an appetite. The medical team descended on her, certain she must be dying. Her heart rate was elevated. She was leaking salt water from her pores, and her core temperature had risen by several degrees. By all their readings, she should have been in critical condition. "I'm fine," Jessica insisted, guzzling water. "Just need to rehydrate and eat something. Maybe some carbs." Richard found her in the observation deck that night, staring out at the stars. Her species' home planet was visible as a small blue dot in the distance. "They're calling you a freak," Richard said quietly. "The other students. They're scared." Jessica nodded slowly. "I know. It happens. Humans are. We're a lot. We're loud and fast, and we don't give up. We take risks that seem insane to other species. We bond with predators and keep them as pets. We eat things that are poisonous to us for fun. We jump out of perfectly good aircraft for recreation." "Why did you come here?" Richard asked. "You could have gone to any academy on Earth. One's designed for humans." Jessica turned to him, her eyes, those strange, forward-facing predator eyes, reflecting the starlight. "Because we're part of the galaxy now. And if we're going to live among the stars, we need to understand everyone else. Even if we're different. Even if we're scary." "You don't scare me," Richard lied. Jessica smiled, and this time Richard noticed the canine teeth, the evolved tools of an apex predator. But he also noticed the kindness in her eyes, the genuine warmth in her expression. "Good," she said, "because I could use a study partner for xenobiology. That's the one class where you're beating me." Richard's crystalline surface shimmered with what his species expressed as amusement. "Deal. But you're helping me with combat training." "Deal." As they walked back to the dormitories, Richard realized something profound. Humans weren't normal by galactic standards. They were stronger, faster, more resilient than they had any right to be. They were apex predators from a death world, playing by rules they'd written in blood and survival. But perhaps that's exactly what the galaxy needed. Not more of the same, but something different, something persistent, something that refused to quit, something human. And maybe, just maybe, Jessica wasn't the abnormal one. Maybe she was exactly what normal should aspire to be. The stars shone above them, and Richard found himself grateful that among all those countless worlds, one had produced humanity. The galaxy was better for it, even if it didn't know it yet, even if it scared them just a little bit.